always loved the story of Macbeth. I remember doing it at school, as so many of us did. But I've always had a curiosity about Lady Macbeth and how, for the first half of the play, she's the person that's saying, come on, we've got to do this, be a man. Even when he does the murder, he brings the daggers back, and she says, what on earth are you doing? You've left the daggers here, take them back. And then, of course, the very famous scene with Banquo's ghost, where he really starts to lose it, and she almost pulls him aside and says, come on, get a grip. We're going to look guilty if you don't sort of hold it together. And I've always just been really curious about that journey and trajectory, and what happened to this woman that was going from sort of someone that was sort of seemingly holding it together, whilst her husband was kind of almost disappearing into this fear of the supernatural and guilt. And then somehow it kind of catches up with her. And, you know, the original is called The Tragedy of Macbeth, and I started to think about the ways in which the characters start to fragment in Macbeth, in the original, particularly Macbeth himself, but also Lady Macbeth, and, you know, the kind of confidence with which they starts to get eroded through the supernatural and the multiple hauntings. And so this sort of idea of Macbeth the Undoing seemed to sort of speak to me, partly as talking about the characters themselves, but partly about my way of working with the text and you know, taking the weave from Shakespeare and starting to thread it in a slightly different way, taking these great iconic characters in these texts and going, what can we bring as a modern audience and modern theatre makers to this story?